Touching the present moment. What it means to touch what is here. To touch the present moment is to meet life directly before we cover it with judgments, stories, or expectations. It is to let the breath, the light in the room, the sound at the edge of hearing, and the feeling in the chest present themselves just as they are. Thich Nhat Hanh loved the word touch because it is simple and embodied. It brings us out of concepts and into contact. He often said in The Miracle of Mindfulness that the practice of mindfulness is the practice of coming back to the here and now, to be in touch deeply with ourselves and with life. Touching in this sense is not grasping or controlling. It is a gentle meeting, an intimate encounter with what is true in this moment. When we hear the word touch, we might think only of our hands, but in mindfulness, touch is wider. We touch with our eyes when we actually look and see. We touch with our ears when we truly listen. We touch with the mind when we receive a feeling without pushing it away or pulling it close. Thich Nhat Hanh says, "In peace is every step, that only in the here and the now can we touch life deeply, and that if we lose mindful breathing, we lose the present moment." To lose the present moment is not a moral failure. It is simply the human habit of drifting into regret about the past or worry about the future. The practice is to notice the drift, return, and touch again. In that returning, we become whole. Touching is different from staring or analyzing. When we stare, we objectify. When we analyze without kindness, we cut apart what we are trying to understand. Touching is respectful. It allows the thing itself, this breath, this leaf, this aching in the heart, to reveal its nature. Thich Nhat Hanh explains in The Art of Living that mindfulness is the energy that helps us be aware of what is happening right now and helps us be in touch with the wonders of life. Wonders is his word for ordinary miracles: a glass of clean water, the warmth of tea in two hands, the sight of a cloud reflected in a puddle. Touching the present is touching these wonders without rushing past them. To touch, we must first arrive. We arrive through breath, which reconnects body and mind. He says in The Miracle of Mindfulness that conscious breathing allows us to be in contact with life in the present moment, the only moment in which we can truly touch life. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. This simple sentence is a gateway. It is a homecoming that needs no special conditions. With one aware inhalation and one aware exhalation, we step out of exile and into the vividness of now. Touching is also nourishment. Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded his students that if we can feel the presence of the sunshine, the fresh air, the trees, our lungs, our in-breath and our out-breath, then we can receive the healing we need. This is not a metaphor. It is an actual shift in our physiology and our psyche. When attention rests gently on real conditions of support, light, air, the earth beneath the feet, the nervous system settles. Presence becomes intimacy with reality, and intimacy is the medicine for loneliness and fear. To touch the present moment is therefore both humble and profound. It is humble because it asks so little of us, just a breath, just a step, just a glance that actually sees. It is profound because when we truly touch the now, a door opens onto something limitless. Thich Nhat Hanh says in The Art of Living that your true home is not an abstract idea. It is something you can touch and live in every moment. He means that home is not elsewhere, not after we change jobs or resolve every conflict. Home is the living presence of awareness itself, available in the exact life we are living, training the senses to touch. If touching the present sounds simple, it is, but simple does not always mean easy. Our senses are often dulled by speed and distraction, and our attention is pulled in many directions at once. Mindfulness retrains the senses to contact what is here. This training is gentle, like teaching a bird to eat seed from an open palm. We do not force awareness, we invite it again and again. The most direct way is to begin with the breath and the body. He says in The Miracle of Mindfulness that we can begin to enter the present moment by becoming aware of our breathing. Breath carries attention home to sensation, the coolness at the nostrils, the expansion in the ribs, the softening of the belly. As the breath grows calmer and more even, the mind steadies. Then we widen our field of touch. We feel our feet on the floor and the subtle sway of balance as we stand or walk. We notice the temperature of the air against the skin. We open to sound, noticing layers of near and far and the silence beneath every sound. This is not analysis, it is contact. In walking meditation, the earth itself becomes available to touch. Thích Nhất Hạnh says, in peace is every step, that with one mindful step, we touch the kingdom of God, and that the real miracle is not to walk on water or in the air, but to walk on the earth. The instruction is tender and concrete. Feel the lifting of the foot, the placing of the foot, the gentle pressure that meets the ground. Let the pace be slower than usual. Allow the step to fill the mind. When thoughts pull you away, smile and return to the step. In this way, walking ceases to be a means of getting somewhere else and becomes a way of arriving where you are. Eating is another doorway. Mindful eating is not about austerity. It is about feeling the life that nourishes life. He loves to say that an orange is a miracle when we really look. To touch the present while eating, pause before the first bite. Notice the color, the scent, the shape. Breathe. Then chew slowly enough to taste. Be aware of gratitude, not as an idea, but as a softening in the body. If conversation is happening, let it be spacious. If you are alone, let the food be your companion. You are not performing a ritual, you are contacting reality. Even the simple act of turning on a light or pouring water can be a chance to touch. Thích Nhất Hạnh often encourages short verses, gathas, to link awareness with action. When the switch clicks and light fills the room, let the mind say, "Light is a gift, may I see clearly." When water flows into a glass, let the mind say, "Water is life, may I be fresh and clear." He explains in The Miracle of Mindfulness that mindfulness is the continuous practice of touching life deeply in every moment, and that small gathas help keep that touch alive throughout the day. Listening is perhaps the most tender of the senses. To listen mindfully is to touch another being with the ear of the heart. We notice the impulse to interrupt, to rehearse our response, to defend or fix, and we soften it. We let the other person's words enter and settle. We feel our breath while we listen, so we do not drown in the other's suffering. He teaches that true listening is a form of compassion. It recognizes the presence of the other and allows healing to begin. In The Art of Communicating, he describes how mindful listening is rooted in the same energy that allows us to be in touch with our own feelings without being overwhelmed by them. The key is contact, not control. As the senses learn to touch in this way, life becomes vivid again. Colors brighten, flavors deepen. The body feels more trustworthy. Instead of drifting through the day, we participate. And as participation grows, so does calm. The world has not changed, but our relationship to it has. We are no longer skimming the surface. We are meeting what is here, touching suffering without being consumed. To promise only sweetness would be dishonest. When we slow down and touch the present, we also touch what hurts. Old grief rises, fear pulses, anger tightens. This is not a sign the practice is failing. It is a sign that we are finally brave enough to stop running. Thích Nhất Hạnh says in The Art of Living that touching suffering can help us nourish compassion and truly recognize happiness when it is there. If we are not in contact with pain, we cannot know what real happiness is. Touching suffering is delicate work. To be in touch does not mean to sink or drown. The image he gives is maternal. Let mindfulness hold your pain the way a mother holds a crying child. The holding is warm and steady. The mother does not scold the child for crying, nor does she abandon the child to cry alone. She simply holds, breathes, and whispers calm. In the same way, we place a gentle attention around the tightness in the chest, the rush of heat, the heaviness behind the eyes. We name the feeling softly. Breathing in, I know anger is here. Breathing out, I hold my anger with care. Already, the sharpest edge softens. This holding changes the pattern by which suffering perpetuates itself. Usually when pain arises, we react, blame, argue, suppress, distract. In all these reactions, we lose contact with what is actually happening inside us. Mindfulness invites a different response. We stay, we breathe, we feel. We do not feed the story. We touch the raw sensation, the tremor of energy, the ache that asks to be seen. He teaches that being in touch with difficult emotions like anger, fear, pain, and sorrow is the second function of mindfulness. The first being to get in touch with the beautiful and refreshing things that are also present. Balance is essential. He warns that if you listen too much to the suffering and anger of other people, you will be in touch only with suffering and will not have the chance to be in touch with positive elements. This is not a call to denial. It is a call to wise nourishment. We alternate our attention, a few breaths with the hurt, then a few breaths with something steady and kind. A hand on the heart, the sensation of the feet on the ground, the sight of a tree moving in the wind. In this way, we remain connected without being consumed. Touching suffering also reveals its nature. When we truly contact an emotion in the body, we see that it is not a solid block, but a process, a wave that rises, peaks, and fades. This insight weakens fear. We begin to trust that we can meet what comes. Over time, the habit of pushing away or clinging loosens. We discover a middle path, intimacy without possession, presence without drowning. In the heart of the Buddha's teaching, he describes this as mindfulness leading naturally to concentration and insight. Concentration is the steady attention that does not waver. Insight is the clear seeing of what is impermanent, interdependent, and not fixed, as a separate self. Compassion grows in this field of touching. When we have held our own fear and rage with patience, we recognize them in others and respond with more care. We do not excuse harmful behavior, but we understand the pain beneath it. This understanding is not sentimental, it is practical. It helps us speak truths without hatred and set boundaries without cruelty. In Peace is Every Step, he often links mindful contact with loving speech and deep listening as the foundations of reconciliation. We cannot reconcile with another if we are not first in contact with our own heart. The fruits of touching suffering are quiet and revolutionary. We become less reactive. We trust presence more than panic. We feel less exiled from ourselves, and from this inner steadiness, our actions in the world change. We are quicker to apologize, slower to judge, more willing to stand up for what is right without turning others into enemies. All of this flows from the simple discipline of returning and touching what is actually happening here and now, touching the wonders and the ultimate. Mindfulness is not only medicine for pain, it is also a conduit for joy. Every day, countless conditions of happiness are already present, but when we are scattered, we cannot receive them. Thich Nhat Hanh says in The Miracle of Mindfulness that mindfulness is the continuous practice of touching life deeply in every moment, and that when we are present, life is also present. To be present is to open the door for wonder to enter. He loves to name ordinary marvels, a glass of water, a ray of sunshine, a leaf, a bird's song, a child's laughter. He says that if we live in awareness, it is easy to see miracles everywhere. This is not naive optimism. It is a trained perception. We do not deny hardship. We simply refuse to let hardship claim the entire field of vision. We touch the refreshing and healing elements that are inside and around us: breath, stability, friendship, beauty, simple acts of kindness. When we touch these, they reveal their full splendor. We feel gratitude, not as a forced attitude, but as a natural warmth rising from contact with what supports life. The language of touching also points beyond the visible to what Thích Nhất Hạnh calls the ultimate dimension. In Living Buddha, Living Christ, he writes that if we touch the Holy Spirit, we touch God not as a concept, but as a living reality. In Buddhist language, we can touch nirvana with our own body, right here and now. This does not mean floating away from the world. It means touching the ultimate through the very fabric of the ordinary. He often uses the image of waves and water. When you touch one wave deeply, you touch water, and when you touch water, you touch all waves. Likewise, when you touch the phenomenal world deeply, this step, this breath, you touch the ultimate realm of no birth and no death. He says in The Art of Living that if you touch reality deeply in the present moment, you touch eternity. This is a bold sentence, and yet it feels simple when you are actually breathing with awareness or walking in a quiet grove. Time thins. The line between self and world softens. You feel held by something vast and tender that needs no name. You recognize that the present is not a narrow slice between past and future. It is a living field that contains past and future intimately. In this field, you sense your ancestors alive in your gestures and your descendants present in the seeds of your choices. Responsibility and wonder meet. This touching of the ultimate is not rarefied mysticism reserved for a few. It is the birthright of anyone who slows down, arrives, and feels. You can touch the ultimate by touching a flower, by touching the air, by touching another person with full attention. He teaches that your true home is a solid reality you can touch with your feet, your hands, and your mind. The word home matters. It suggests rest, safety, belonging. To touch the ultimate is to come home from the exile of identification with every thought and fear. It is to remember that the ground of your being is wider than your worries. There is also a communal aspect to this touching. In the order of interbeing, which Thích Nhất Hạnh founded, the Vietnamese word tiep means to be in touch. To be in touch with oneself is the first meaning of meditation. To be in touch with the wondrous present moment is the continuation of that path. And to be in touch with the suffering of the world is the compassionate flowering. When a community practices together, walking, breathing, eating in silence, the field of touch grows stronger. Each person's steadiness helps steady the others. This is why, he says in many places, the Sangha is the most important support for the path. Presence is contagious. Touching the wonders and the ultimate does not remove us from responsibility, it deepens it. When we feel the earth beneath our feet as sacred, our choices about consumption and care change. When we touch the aliveness in the eyes of another, our speech softens. When we sense the presence of our ancestors and descendants in our breath, our courage to act for justice grows. In this way, touching the present moment becomes a path of engaged spirituality. The intimacy we cultivate with reality becomes the energy we bring to healing the world. The courage to touch, the freedom to live. Touching the present moment is both an art and a discipline. It asks of us a certain courage, the courage to slow down in a culture of speed, the courage to feel in a time that rewards numbing, the courage to be kind when irritation would be easier. This courage does not roar. It looks like a person who, before answering a difficult email, closes their eyes, and breathes. It looks like a parent who feels anger in the body and chooses to place a hand on the heart and soften the jaw before speaking. It looks like a person who, when grief rises without warning, stops walking for a moment and lets tears come without shame. These small acts are large. They are acts of intimacy with reality, and intimacy is what transforms us. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches that we can touch peace just by breathing in or making a step. Such a sentence might sound impossibly simple until you try it on a day of confusion or sorrow. Then you feel its truth. One aware breath cuts the chain of reactivity. One aware step reintroduces you to ground. In that small space, new choices appear. You are no longer driven only by fear or habit. This is why he calls mindfulness a miracle, the miracle by which we restore ourselves. The restoration is not dramatic. It is steady and quiet, like a river wearing a new path through rock. To live this way is to discover freedom in ordinary hours. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty, it is the presence of capacity. When we can touch what is here, pleasant or painful, without immediately fleeing or clinging, we are free. When we can touch a person with true listening rather than defensive rehearsals, we are free. When we can touch the earth with a step that says thank you, we are free. In the miracle of mindfulness, he reminds us that the first miracle brought about by mindfulness is our real presence. From that presence, healing and freedom flow. This freedom is contagious. Families, classrooms, workplaces, and communities are changed by even a few people who can remain present under stress. A calm person in a meeting can lower the temperature for everyone. A teacher who breathes before responding models dignity to young minds. A nurse who takes one conscious breath before entering the next room brings a steadier kindness to patients. None of this is abstract. It is the practical outcome of being in touch. The final truth of touching the present moment is tenderness. To touch what is here is to discover that life, even when fierce, carries a softness at its core. The breath is soft. The earth underfoot is soft. The voice of a friend, when we actually hear it, is soft. Even tears are soft. This tenderness is not weakness. It is strength that does not need armor. It is wisdom that knows the difference between holding and grasping, between meeting and manipulating. It is love that expresses itself in patience, clarity, and steady action. Thich Nhat Hanh says in The Miracle of Mindfulness that when we live concentrated, we touch deeply what is there, and we begin to understand the depth of what is there. This understanding is insight, and insight is what allows love to be intelligent. A love that is merely reactive can burn hot and then vanish. A love born of touching and deep seeing knows how to endure, how to speak truth without hatred, how to protect without dehumanizing, how to let go when letting go is the merciful thing. To conclude without ending, touching the present moment is not a technique we complete. It is a way of living. We begin again and again with breath and step, with seeing and listening, with contact that is gentle and brave. We touch the wonders and we touch the wounds. We touch the surface and we touch the depths. We touch the phenomenal, and by touching it deeply, we touch the ultimate. And in this continuous touching, life ceases to be a problem we must solve and becomes a mystery we are allowed to love. If there is a single sentence to carry from this chapter into the hours ahead, let it be a sentence born of his teaching and distilled for our day. Touch the present moment as deeply as you can, and let that touch teach you how to live.